Welcome everyone to our How We Got the Bible class. So unfortunately, I'm not able to see all of you in class due to our lockdown, but so this is another alternative way that I can teach all of you. So just to mention that this is quite a technical topic, so just a lot of facts that I'm going to give to you, and everything that is actually in your manual. So there are two things that you have. Firstly, you should have a manual like this, a manual. This is a manual that you got. This is a 51 page manual, I think. There's 51 pages inside. And so inside this manual, we're going to cover topics. So this is the content, the introduction of the Bible, the inspiration of the Bible, canonization, the development and history of the Old Testament canon, and the development and history of the New Testament canon here. Follow along, and how we're going to look at a bit of the transmission of the Bible, and then translations. Transmission means, how do we know the Bible's written over many, many years? How do we transmit over, thousands of years? Then translations, from the original language, Hebrew, Old Testament, then went to Greek, Septuagint. Then after that, Greek New Testament was written. And then from Greek, it translated into Latin. Now we have the English Bible into languages to most languages of the world now. And chapter 8 in your manual, you will be looking at how do we defend the Bible against skeptics. There are a lot of very spectacular information that is in your manual. Okay, so all of you should have a manual. I think it's emailed to you. So there are 51 pages, and quite far down the manual, you can see, I think from page 57 onwards, you will have what we call page 37 onwards, you have charts. Okay, so get familiarized with your manual. Page 37 onwards, you will start to see charts already. And I'll be flipping that here are your charts, except that they are not in the right direction. So you will also get another PowerPoint where you will see the charts in the normal on the right side. Okay, so you don't have to refer to the charts now, but while I'm lecturing, make sure you're following my lectures, just looking at the screen and then trying to understand it. Okay, now the best way actually to really attend this lecture is if you have a hard copy. Okay, so if you have a hard copy, then it makes it even easier because you can write down, highlight the things I'm highlighting. There are some things that are highlighted is very important, things that may even come up for your exam. So I think there's certain things. There's some technical things which are very, very new to you. So some words are Septuagint, homologomena or pseudepigrapha, apocrypha, a lot of new words, or many of these new words that I will introduce to you. Okay, so actually, so there will be quite new things, and so it will be very hard to remember unless you are highlighting many of these things. Okay, so you can see there charts all the way in your manual, and all the way to page 51 will be the last page is there. So it's a 51-page manual, and so you will need this manual. Okay, just also to reminder to all of you that there is a test at the end. So end of the lectures, when you finish the 8 sessions, lesson 1 to lesson 8, I'll have a test. Now, this test is an open book test. Okay, so you have to follow my lecture carefully because I'm highlighting certain things, and basically I'm getting you to extract all the information that I taught you and put it into the exam paper. So from the charts, it means if you're following the lecture well, you really understand the charts. So basically, it's an open book. You just go through. Within 1 hour, you should be able to answer all the questions. In fact, the fast ones, those who are very fast, I think within 20 minutes, you would have finished it. The slow ones will take an hour because you are trying to find the information. Okay, but it's basic information. Many of the things know, but basically is if you have followed the lesson well, you're able to look at the charts and so understand all the charts, then the test will be quite simple. So you should be able to do it. Okay, so open book test, an hour at the end of the lesson, and then you should be able to do the test quite well. Okay, so this is the manual that you have. I think also emailed to you is a PowerPoint of slides. Okay, and I'll be referring to this one as I share to you. Okay, but you can refer to it. The reason why I'm using this PowerPoint is because I can see the slides sideways. Okay, see the slides are sideways, and so I can read them. Whereas in your notes, you know, it is in A4, and because to fill up the size of it. So these are very, very good charts, okay, that you see. Some of it already you've seen some of it in the how we got to how we worship. Music and worship. Okay, so these are the charts, and you will have to go through with me in my lecture so that you know you can understand. So I'm teaching with circling where to look at. Okay, just to remind all of you that you cannot attend this lecture with a handphone. Because these charts are small, you can see here, you know, I'm looking at a computer and I can barely read, okay? So some of these lecture is very, very small, but they can be read if you're on a computer. If you're on a phone, you will completely miss most of the things that I'm teaching in the lecture, okay? But if you're on a computer, you can easily see the things that I'm sharing with you. Okay, so these are two things that you have. One is the lecture notes. Secondly, is the PowerPoint with the charts. Okay, so let me begin my lecture now. Okay, let's see. Okay, let me get back to the notes, the PDF file. Okay, so right from the top. Okay, so. Okay, okay, so we look at page 1. We've seen the contents already that we are covering. Okay, now also when I'm lecturing, as you're attending the LOSA, we are having it for 2 days. So if any of you have any questions on the first, second day, you can send your questions to Lenny, and I will try to answer the questions. Maybe I'll send you the final video clip. That they will answer some of the questions, okay? Because I think I'm sure there are a lot of questions that will come to your mind, okay, as I teach. Okay, so you just write down your questions, send it to Lenny, and Lenny will send to me, and I can do a video clip to explain some of the questions. Okay, so we're coming to lesson 1. Okay, lesson 1 will be in part 2, so it will be 2 sessions because it's quite a long session. So I'm just going to cover the first session now, and just follow me with your notes. So introduction to the Bible. Okay, so I come to this first word, the term the Bible. This word Bible, the word Bible, as you read from your screen there, is derived from the Greek word biblios, which means book. Okay, and specifically the books that are acknowledged as canonical by the Christian Church. Biblia is a plural for biblios, and the earliest use of ta Biblia, or which is the book, is said to be around AD 150. Okay, so just remember that the word Bible, the word that is actually means in Greek means book. Okay, and then the Greek word Biblia gave birth to the Latin word, which is Biblia, which also means book. So the Greek word Biblia went into Latin, transliterated also in term Biblia. Okay, so a term synonymous with the Bible is the writing or scriptures, frequently used in the New Testament to denote the Old Testament documents in whole or in part. Okay, so you can see here, Matthew chapter 21, verse 42, it says, have you ever read the scriptures? So coming back to this term, the word Bible, okay, I mean, when we say Bible, it refers to our 66 books. Okay, that is presently, okay? But if you were in the Greek time, you know, when you say the word Biblia, it just mean any book, okay? Any book, okay? So it means any book, okay? So that's why, but because the word Biblia is then became used in English, transliterated as in Latin, Biblia, and then into the English Bible. So now the term Bible is only referring, even though it means book, it's only referring to our 66 books of the Bible. Okay, the term Biblia stuck to us. Okay, so that's what the term means. Okay, now so Matthew 21 verse 42 says, "Have you ever read the scripture?" So another way that people refer to the to our 66 books is we refer them to the scriptures, especially the Old Testament scriptures. Jesus referred to 39 books of the Old Testament as, have you ever read the scriptures? Okay, so refer to the scriptures. Okay, now following with your notes here now in section 2 here, the term Old Testament and the New Testament is divided into two parts. Okay, and the Bible divided in two parts, basically the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Hebrew word for the Old Testament is a berith, which means covenant, compact or arrangement within two parties. And the Greek version of the Old Testament, the Septuagint, translate the Hebrew word berith with the Greek word diatheke. Okay, so this word diatheke in the Greek means covenant. Okay, I highlight here. Okay, diatheke means covenant. Now, I hope you're all following on the computer, you know, not on the phone, because in the phone you will not be able to read any of this, but in the computer you can see. I'm reading from the computer, so you should be able to follow clearly. Okay, so basically the Greek word diatheke which means covenant, was translated into the Latin word testamentum here. So diatheke was translated into the word testamentum. So it means covenant, right? Greek. And the Latin word testamentum also means covenant. But when they translated the Bible into English, they used the English term, they translated, literated from Latin, and so they used the word testament. Okay, so remember, no, in Latin, testamentum means covenant, but when they translated into the English, they use the word testament. And so, which means covenant now, okay. So end up, you know, we have the New Testament, Old Testament, okay. But actually, the real meaning of diatheke, or in Greek or Latin testamentum, the real meaning is covenant. So actually, it should be Old Testament and the Old Covenant and the New Covenant, not Testament, okay? But you know, over 1,500 years, when the word is used, you know, because of the Latin Bible, Latin Vowel, you know, they use the word testament, they transliterated testamentum to testament. So from then on, you know, once the word is stuck, you know, for thousands of years, we cannot change the word, okay? So technically, it should be the New Covenant and the Old Covenant, okay? So that explains where we get the term testamentum. Okay, now we come to the page 2 of your notes. Okay, hope you're still following, able to read. Okay, our modern Bible, very simple. Okay, we have a total of 66 books here. You can see on your highlighted there, and 39 books of the Old Testament, 27 books of the New Testament. Okay, you see that in your notes. Okay, so we have 66 books in the modern Bible. This is how it is: 66 books of the 39 in the Old Testament and 27 in the New Testament. Now, in the 39 books, you can see in the next chart here. I highlight the chart for you here. Okay, you can see that the Bible has 5 sections there. We have the law, history, poetry, major prophets, and minor prophets. Okay, you can see there, 39 law, 5 sections: law, history, poetry, major prophets, and minor prophets. Okay, so let's see the pronunciation. So we try to learn the pronunciation correctly. Okay, so law, 5 books: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Okay, history books: Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther. So we got 5 books of the law, 12 books of the history. Then section 3, poetry, we got 5 books there: Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon. Okay, 5 books there. Then we got major prophets: Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel. Okay, so that is why. And then finally, we have the minor prophets. Okay, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi. Okay, now the minor prophets are the hardest to pronounce. Okay, sometimes we call Hosea, or we call them Hosea, you know, or we call it Habakkuk or Habakkuk, you know, or sometimes Haggai, you call it the Haggai, you know, and Malachi, you call it the Malachi, you know, like an Indian word. Okay, so we'll play fun. We have fun with all the minor prophets. Okay, you can see there are 5 sections there: 5 books of the law, 12 books of history, 5 books of poetry, 5 major prophets, and 12 minor prophets. Okay, so these are the 39 books of the Old Testament. Okay, now, so this is our modern Bible is structured like that. We all know this structure. If you look at your Bible, you can see that they are structured like that. It's organized like that. Okay, now the New Testament. Okay, we have here 27 books of the New Testament. We have Gospel, History, Pauline epistles, general epistles, and prophecy. Okay, section 1, Gospels, 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Okay, we have 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. 4 books. History, 1 book, Acts. Then we got the Pauline epistles. Okay, call it Pauline. Pauline epistles. Why Pauline? Because it's written by Paul. Okay, so we got Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1 Thessalonians, 2 Thessalonians, 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, Titus, Philemon, Hebrews. Okay, now Hebrews we put it under here, although the author technically here is unknown. Okay, so we only guess it is 4, but we are not very sure. Okay, but anyway, here we are, for simplicity, we classify under here. And then general epistles, we got James, 1st, 2nd Peter, 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, and Jude. And then prophecy, we got Revelation. So you can see that you count all together, 14 books here, 7 books here, 1 book here. Altogether, we got 27 books of the New Testament. Okay, hope everyone is following. Okay, now just some questions. You just think about it. So normally ask, okay, how do the Pauline epistles here, how do they get their names? Okay, just think. So I know some, if you're in class, you know, you can answer me. Okay, but okay, so where's I have the answer for you. Rome come from Romans, written to Rome. Paul, right? So to Rome, they call by Romans. Corinth, written to Corinth, the town. Okay, Galatians, written to the city Galatia. Okay, and then if Ephesians, written to Ephesus. Philippians, written to Philippi. Colossians, written to Colossae. Then Thessalonica. Okay, so Timothy, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Paul is writing to Timothy. Then Paul is writing to Titus. Paul is writing to Philemon. Now, the book of Hebrews, basically we call it Hebrews because we think that the book is written to the Hebrew church. Okay, remember there was a Gentile church, there was a Hebrew church. So because of the content, they guess that the book of is written to the Hebrew church. Okay, now as far as James, this general epistles here is named after the author, written by James. Peter is written by Peter. 1st and 2nd, 3rd John, written by 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, and Jude, written by Jude. And the book of Revelation, it basically is the apocalypse. Okay. Acts is a history book with history of the early church, and then here Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John is a record of the life of Jesus by the 4 different authors. Okay, so that is a summary of the New Testament. Okay, so we have covered page 3 now, and we are now coming to page 4. Now, here I want to share with you now. Just now I've looked at the structure of the structure of the Bible in the modern form. There's the Bible that we have. Okay. Now, but the Bible that we have wasn't all the time like this. Okay. So now in 1.4 here in your notes there, we're going to look at how did the Bible look like in the ancient time. That means if you were in the Old Testament time, let's say BC 100 or in the time of Jesus. Okay, so you're having the Hebrew Old Testament. How did it look like? Okay, so we'll now look at the Hebrew Old Testament. Okay, now the Hebrew Old Testament I'm reading here. The Hebrew Old Testament is arranged in 3 sections, totaling 24 books. Okay, the modern Old Testament contains all 24 books of the Hebrew Old Testament. The basic difference is that the books were grouped differently. So they were divided into three sections: the law, the prophets, and the writings. Okay, the law, the prophets, and the writings. So this word here should be prophets. Okay, law, the prophets, and the writing. Okay, so the Old Testament then has actually three sections: law, which is a Torah here. Now I'm coming down here. Then the second section, the prophecy, the prophets, which is we call it the Nevi'im. And third section, writings, or the Ketuvim. Okay, so three terms, okay. So if I ask you a question in the exam, so you take note, okay, how many sections are there in the Hebrew Old Testament? Your answer should be three. It should be the law, prophets, and writings. Okay, remember, this one just correct it. Prophets, okay? Law, prophets, and writings, okay? Law, prophets, and writing, okay? So, and then the number of books there. Remember, our modern Bible got 39 books, but and how many books are there in the Hebrew Old Testament? Answer should be 24, okay? So they're 24. Why? They're grouped like that, okay? The law is the same here, the law. 5 books here, 5 books of the law. The prophets, we got Joshua, Judges, Samuel, Kings. Okay, see, Samuel and 1 Samuel is 1 book, Kings. Then you got Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and the 12 prophets here become 1 book. You can see prophets only got 8 books. And then the writings, you got Psalm, Job, Proverbs here, and Proverbs, Song of Songs, is Ecclesiastes, Lamentation, Esther, Daniel, Ezra, Nehemiah is 1 book, Chronicles. Okay, so you can see then in the Hebrew Old Testament, because First and Second is considered 1 book, First and 2nd King considered 1 book, the 12 minor prophets is considered 1 book, Ezra, Nehemiah is considered 1 book. Because of this different classification, we only have a total of 24 books in the Hebrew Old Testament. But the content is exactly the same like our present modern Bible. Okay. Now, just to one very interesting thing here, the 12 minor prophets were considered as 1 book. Very simply, why? If you look at the minor prophets, if you combine the 12 minor prophets all into one, actually the length of the 12 minor prophets is about the same length as the book of Isaiah. Okay, interesting, huh? All the minor prophets are just talking short. Basically, the major and the minor prophets are, major is basically they're talking very long, minor they're talking very short, okay? That's why when you combine the 12 minor prophets, it's about the same length as the book of Isaiah. Okay, the next thing is, here in Luke chapter 24, verse 24, all these things were written about me in the law of Moses, the prophets, and that the Psalms may be fulfilled. Now, you look at this verse here. So basically, you know, you can see here when they were quoting the Hebrew. Remember, you know, when they were writing the Gospel, the New Testament don't exist, right? So when they are talking about scriptures, it's all referring to the Old Testament. You can see all these things were written about me, as Jesus is saying, in the law of the prophets, law of Moses. Sorry. Number 2, prophets, and number 3. The Psalms. Okay, 3 things, and then you can see very clearly already that the Old Testament, well, in the 3 sections, 1, law of Moses, there were 2 prophets, and number 3, Psalms. Okay, because the 3rd one, writings or Psalms. You can see all the poetic books and so on. Okay, so that's why it's very clearly that the Old Testament, Hebrew Old Testament, is classified into 3 sections. Okay, and then the number of books is just 24 books. Okay, hope you're all following. Okay, now come to the next section of my notes here. When I'm looking at the Greek Old Testament. So the Greek Old Testament is another name for it. It's called the Septuagint. Okay, it's called Septuagint. Okay, basically, Septuagint was written around 250 to 150 BC. Okay, what happened was the Hebrew scriptures were translated into Greek at Alexandria, and this translation, known as the Septuagint, introduced some basic changes into the format of the books. Some books were reclassified, other books regrouped, and some were renamed. So the Alexandrian tradition arranged the Old Testament according to the subject matter. Okay, now come to languages. Let me just explain about languages. In a language, what happened is when a country is called Alexander the Great, came out around 300 BC. He conquered the whole of Europe, and Asia Minor and so on. Okay, so his influence was very spectacular. Everywhere he went, he brought the Greek culture and the Greek language to all the places he conquered. Okay, so people begin to speak in Greek. So what happened is that when a language or the world language become Greek, so definitely the Bible has been translated into Greek. Okay, so that's why the Bible then was translated into the Septuagint. Now, just remember that at that time, 250 BC, was the New Testament in existence? Okay, the answer is no. You don't have the New Testament. So therefore, the Greek Septuagint or the Septuagint is basically the Greek Old Testament. Okay, I repeat, and you have to know this, because I'll be asking it in your exam. And every year I just highlight to the student many times, and they'll still give me some students still give me wrong answers. They say Greek Septuagint. I say, oh, it's a Greek Bible. When you use the term Greek Bible, it is referring to the Greek New and Old Testament. So the answer is wrong, okay? The Greek Septuagint is the Greek Old Testament because the New Testament don't exist, okay? So the correct answer is Greek Old Testament translated from Hebrew. That is the correct answer. So the Septuagint is the Greek Old Testament translated from Hebrew. And what year did it come about? The answer is around 250 BC to 150 BC, the Greek Septuagint surfaced. Okay, now, so from a pure Hebrew Bible, written from Moses all the way to the Malachi, then we suddenly, in 250 BC, you have a whole new Bible, new Old Testament, not Bible, new Old Testament in the Greek language. Okay, so that's what the Septuagint is all about. Okay, now I want to share with you now. When they translated into the Greek Septuagint, the translators, okay, so remember Hebrew got 3 sections. When they translated into Greek, they reclassified the books. Okay, so they means, they reclassified the books into 5 different sections. Okay, so this is the structure now in your notes here, right in the screen, is the structure of the Greek Septuagint. Okay, so in the Greek Septuagint, there is now this book in 250 BC is structured like that: 5 books of the law, 5 books of poetry. Okay, bottom there, 12 books of history, 17 books of prophecy. Okay, so doesn't this one look familiar? This particular structure. Remember, this structure is 250 BC. So guess what? Our new modern Bible, guess who they followed? Did they follow the Hebrew original Old Testament, or they followed the Greek Septuagint in their structure? So the answer is they followed the Greek Septuagint. Okay, so they follow the structure. So in 250 BC, when they translated the Bible into Greek, they restructured it into the law, 5 books of the law, then 5 books of poetry, 12 books of history, you can see there. Then they put in the 1st, 2nd Samuel, 1st King, 2nd King, because the book was so long. 1st Chronicles, 2nd Chronicles. Ezra and Nehemiah, they separated. Then major prophets, you got a 5 here, 5 major prophets. And then the minor prophets, they got the 12 here. Okay, so this is the structure of the Greek Septuagint. So then you can now see why our modern Bible is structured like that, because when they translated the Bible into Latin, they followed exactly the Greek Septuagint. Okay? Because Greek culture was so strong, when the culture is so strong, Alexander's influence, Greek influence was so strong worldwide, and everyone began to follow the structures of it. Okay, now we are coming to page 6 now. Okay, just following along your notes, and hope you are still on your computer. You need a computer to read, okay, because I'm reading straight from the computer. Normally, actually, it's all in PowerPoint, but if I switch to the PowerPoint, you'll not be following so closely because you don't have a hard copy of the notes. Now, the Greek New Testament, the Greek New Testament is originally in Greek. So because it was written in Greek, okay, so by the time the New Testament was written, the year is around 250, 50 AD to about 95 AD. So around 50 years, 45 AD to 95 AD, 50 years, the whole of the New Testament was written, and it is written in the language Greek, okay, in a common Greek, okay. So the Greek is broken into 4 sections there, here, 4 groups: Gospel, History, Epistles, and Prophecy. Okay, so these are the books, okay, and it is 27 books here. The answers are there already. Normally it's in blank, okay. So you got Gospels, 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Then you got History, Acts of the Apostles, and then you got the Epistles here, 13 Pauline epistles with, okay, now they have switched Hebrew here, because Hebrew we are not sure of the author, and then 8 general epistles, so total epistles 21, and then finally you got the book of Revelation. Okay, so now the New Testament, 27 books, it has not changed. The structure from the New Testament time to now, it's always been like that, separated into these 4 sections like that. Okay. Okay. Now I want to come to explain another term called the Latin Vulgate. Okay. Later I will refer to some charts. Okay. Later as you go along, because the charts attached are very, very informative. So you will learn a lot of things from the charts, and all these names that you see here, they are all somewhere found in the charts. Okay. Now, so what happened was, remember when I was sharing the music and worship, I gave you a chart, on the history of the church, around early church after 300, then Constantine became an emperor, and then the whole Roman empire became Christian, and so Latin became the language of the Roman Empire, which was basically the global and the world empire. Okay, so what happens when a global empire like Rome takes over and the emperor becomes the emperor? So basically he said, okay, and then there's only one church at the time, the Roman Catholic Church. So he said, okay, now we will only read the Bible in Latin. So they translated the Bible then from Greek, from the Greek Bible, the Greek Septuagint, and the Greek New Testament. They translated into the Latin. Okay, they call the Latin Vulgate. Okay, so this is not a vulgar book, by the way. Okay, it's not a vulgar book. The Latin Vulgate is the Bible in Greek. The Bible in Latin, both the New and the Old Testament. Okay, this is actually the work of one man, one person between AD 383 to 405. Just 20 plus years, he translated the whole Bible from Greek into Latin. Okay, and this Latin Bible, remember, let's say you average the year from 400, it went all the way to 1500. This was the only Bible available. So nearly like 1,000 to 1,100 years, they can only read the Bible in Latin. And by the way, I want to highlight to you, during these years, when the Roman Catholic Church was running, there's only one church. The Bible can only be read in Latin. There's no other language. You cannot even read it in Greek or Hebrew. If you do, they will kill you. Okay. And the early translators like Wycliffe, and we'll see that later, they all died in 1384. They died translating the Bible to English. Wycliffe, Tyndale, and a host of other people. I hope you are able to watch one of the YouTube videos called "Written in Flames" about how the early translators all died. Okay, so for 1,000 years we have the Latin Vulgate, the only Bible available they can read. Okay, they can read. Okay, and then in 1384, then another major Bible came out. We call it the English Bible. Okay, so what happened was, at that time, about 1500, English became a global world power, right? Britain became a superpower. That's why it came, conquered a lot, even in Asia, Africa, and so on. Okay, so what happened when a country become a global power, that language is exported to all over the world. That's why a lot of the world speaks English, like Malaysia, Singapore, India, the US, and so on, okay? Australia, New Zealand. No, we're all English speaking. Why? Because of export of English. So what happened was that in the time 1400, they translated the Bible to English. And so this is the year 1384. Wycliffe did it. And then, of course, he followed the Latin Vulgate, okay? So the Latin Vulgate followed the Greek Septuagint. And so the English Bible followed the Latin Vulgate. And so that's why today our English Bible structure is exactly the same as our Latin Vulgate structure. Okay, you're following? Okay, now I want to come on to next section of your notes where I want to look at this particular chart, okay? Authors of the Bible, the dates and the place of writing. Okay, you can see here, according chronologically from the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, this last section there is the name of the book. Okay, and then here, the author name, and then the place of writing, and then the date of the writing. Okay, you can see Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy written by Moses. Where was he? Yes, he's in Egypt, or at least, Egypt coming out, maybe Mount Sinai, some of it, the law, and then from Mount Sinai, he could be this or the border of Canaan. So somewhere around there, and the date, this is a date where he was reigning, Moses was leading out around 1400 BC, okay? Then you can see the book of Joshua, and so on, okay? So these are the things, and you can go to look at, there's a lot of information here. Okay, just to highlight that these are the dates, and so just highlight some questions and highlight to you, okay? So firstly, what is the oldest book? Okay, the answer is here. The oldest book written is the book of Job, okay? And the estimated year is 2000 BC, okay? So this is what we guess that Job wrote the book around there, because why? We can see, the background is very similar to Abraham. So that is the oldest book in the Old Testament. And then the latest book of the Old Testament is a book of Malachi here, Malachi, and it is written in 432 BC. So the last book of the Old Testament, so Genesis, all the way is a prophetic book, okay, and that's written around 432 BC. Okay, so in the next session, I will examine the charts and explain some of these dates, okay, when they are written, and so you can flip back to the chart and so on. Okay, so here you can look at this chart. Where are they written? Okay, you can see Egypt, okay, and then Palestine, some of it written in Israel. Okay, of course, Samuel written in Israel. Why they are in Israel, right? Joshua written in Canaan, that is in Israel. And Chronicles, the kings, they are in Israel, so they have to be in Israel there. No, Esther, you were exiled, so it has to be written in Persia. Okay, and then of course, Song of Solomon, Ecclesiastes, Proverbs. All these are like Solomon wrote a lot of them, so therefore they have to be written in Israel, in Judah, or in Israel, or in Jerusalem. Okay, now Jeremiah, he was partly written when he was in Judah, partly when he was exiled, so therefore in Judah, in Babylon. That's what we guess. Ezekiel and Daniel, they were exiled, so they were probably in Babylon. That's how it's written. So that's how they predict where the Bibles are written around the date. Okay, now see here we have Haggai, post-exilic prophet. So therefore, they from Babylon, they have come back, and now they are in Jerusalem already. Okay, so that's a chart of the Old Testament when they were written. Now this next page there, in page 8, is the chart of the New Testament. Okay, the chart of the New Testament. Okay, we have Matthew, Mark, Luke. So the author, you can see Matthew, Mark, Luke, they are the authors. John, Acts written by Luke. Okay, Romans here written by Paul. Okay, and then all the rest here, Pauline epistles. Okay, you can see there, Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, all written by Paul, all the way to Philemon. Okay, that's how they classified it. Gospels, history, Acts is history. Then we have Pauline epistles here. Okay, the Hebrews, okay, Hebrews I can say here. Okay, you can say Hebrews here. They put there, maybe Paul. Okay, by tradition, they think it is Paul. Okay, James, written by James, Peter, by Peter, and then John, and then of course the book of Revelation here is written by John. Okay, so this chart is quite informative. It's quite informative, so you can have a look at it. Okay, now I want you to highlight some things about the date of writing. Okay, so the earliest book, now it's a guess. The earliest book they think could be the book of Mark. Now here you see they put a range 45 to 65, 55 to 65. So they think it is could be the earliest book. Now I know there's another date here, 49, but that's why the dates are estimated. Okay, but now they think that the book of Mark is probably the earliest gospel written, and probably the earliest book in the New Testament. And of course, the latest book of the New Testament, of course, is the book of John. They estimate the book of John is written around AD 95. Okay, so okay, there's a lot to digest already for session 1. So I'm going to end session 1 now, because I want to keep the session lesson 1 part 1. Okay, I'm going to keep the recordings to about 30 to 40 minutes. You got time to digest. So when I come back to lesson 1, I'm going to go through the review questions. I'm going to and look at some of the charts and to explain some of the charts already. Okay, so bye for now until we come to lesson 2.